Hey everybody, welcome to Bura Tech. In this episode, we're going to be talking about that New York Times article that claims that liberal arts majors make as much as STEM majors. Alright, welcome back. Before we start this video, I want to make sure that you like and subscribe. And if you really like this video, please share it with the world. Remember that this channel doesn't do a Patreon and you can buy our digital products down below. The more products you buy below, the more content we can make. Alright, so let's talk about this New York Times article that claims that eventually liberal arts majors make as much money, or if not more money, than STEM majors do. In the article, it claims that STEM majors make more money out of the gate, but in the long run stagnate on their income. Now let's dissect this, and I'm going to tell you about my personal experience with this kind of philosophy. So as you know, I run an e-learning company called Mammoth Interactive, and since Mammoth Interactive has sold over 700,000 courses worldwide, there's a lot of things that we do that you don't necessarily get in a STEM education. For instance, in a lot of times in STEM education, most of the example is being taught instead of the theme. So for instance, if you're going through a STEM degree and you're mostly learning specific tasks like how to program a function in C++, etc. Now this is not inherently bad, but oftentimes technology changes. And since technology changes, your skills are now obsolete. So while STEM schools teach the example rather than the theme, because the example is now obsolete, a lot of STEM majors have trouble catching up. And this is why STEM majors constantly need to retrain. And if you just learned how to do one specific example, then it's going to be harder for you to retrain. Now, depending on the school, if you learned the bigger picture of development, for example, why functions work in C++ and why they work in Java, and what the philosophical difference is between the two, then you'll have an easier time adapting to new technology changes. In fact, this is one of the questions I ask anyone that comes to apply to Mammoth Interactive. I ask them what the difference is, and that is the philosophical difference between Android Studio and Xcode. There's a huge difference, and the people that understand that are probably going to be better programmers in the long run. Now, it also makes more sense that STEM majors make more money out of the gate. And this is because if you did a 2 or 4 year degree, chances are those skills are in demand. The problem comes in 8, maybe 10 years later when those skills that you might have learned in your college degree are no longer important. Now this has happened many times. For example, when I was in university, Xcode and making iOS apps was not even a thing because the iPhone wasn't invented. As soon as the iPhone came out, there was a whole new brand of programmers that needed to be trained. And if you were a programmer, you could command a huge salary because there were very few people that could do it. Furthermore, Apple really likes to blend the liberal arts within their technology. In fact, you can see Steve Jobs saying so right here.
It's in Apple's DNA that technology alone is not enough. That it's technology married with liberal arts, married with the humanities, that yields us the result that makes our hearts sing. And nowhere is that more true than in these post-PC devices. And a lot of folks in this tablet market are rushing in, and they're looking at this as the next PC. The hardware and the software are done by different companies, and they're talking about speeds and feeds, just like they did with PCs. And our experience in every bone in our body says that that is not the right approach to this. That these are post-PC devices that need to be even easier to use than a PC, that need to be even more intuitive than a PC, and where the software and the hardware and the applications need to intertwine in an even more seamless way than they do on a PC. And we think we're on the right track with this.
It's this philosophy that makes Apple more successful than its competitors. It's a reason why they are so innovative. You can take a look at this TED Talk that pretty much talks about the same thing. It's a technology company that wasn't making as much money as they could. So what they did is they added liberal arts majors to their staff, and now they're making more money than ever. There's something about the liberal arts degree that is completely lacking in STEM. As an educator, I understand this, and I try to put this lack of knowledge into Mammoth Interactive's courses. That's one reason why we've sold so many courses over the years. Now, a lot of people like to separate technical skills and artistic skills, but it wasn't always like that. You can take a look at this TED Talk that talks about how the Pantheon, which is a major Roman structure that is still standing today, uses both technicality and artistry to become a masterpiece. In fact, if you really want to do something completely innovative, you have to inherently be creative. Which brings up another topic. Is programming creative or not? Now, for those of you who've been following me over the years, I have talked about this a lot. The answer is that yes, programming is creative depending on the type of programming that you're doing. But at the end of the day, you are literally creating something, so even if you're one of the most technical programmers, it is still more creative than a lot of the average tasks. Programming is not a repetitive job. Repetitive jobs are inherently less creative, and jobs that require some kind of problem-solving skills are more creative. A lot of STEM education doesn't teach this creative side. However, I do know that there are lots of schools out there that do teach critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Remember that creativity isn't playing an acoustic guitar in a park. It can be something like creating a building or solving a problem. Was Einstein creative? He absolutely was. Now let's go back to the article for a second here. Now in the article, it claims that eventually liberal arts majors do make as much money as their STEM, but there's a big problem with this. If you make a lot of money right out of university, then you can save that money and through compound interest will be richer later on. Just because you make the same amount 10 years or 5 years after your degree doesn't mean that you're in the same place. Now, as a tip, if you are right out of college, I would recommend saving as much money as possible because you're used to having a college life and you don't necessarily need to spend all that much more money. The more money you save earlier on in life, the richer you will become later in life. Saving just $100 a week will give you over $5,000 a year. Another thing about liberal arts majors is that I personally know a lot of people who did English degrees, philosophy degrees, and music degrees that are now programmers. In fact, it's fairly common. And as a business owner, if a person with an English degree and was the top 1% of the graduates that year wanted to work at my company, I would absolutely say yes. Chances are that person is not only really smart, but motivated as well. Now, with a lot of these degrees, you won't be using the exact skill you learned in college, but instead you will apply it to something else. So if you are a liberal arts major, then perhaps you can go to a coding boot camp and apply the knowledge that you learned in your degree with the coding boot camp to become a really good programmer. Chances are you'll be pretty successful later on. Since coding is in such demand, there's no wonder that if you're really good at coding, then your degree doesn't matter as much. In fact, if you really want to be a good coder, it's really about your performance, kind of like an athlete over anything else. However, if you want to become a coder, a computer engineering or computer science degree is probably the best way to go about it. But if you do one of these degrees, perhaps take an English class or a drama class, you'd be surprised at how much it helps you. Now, if you want to be a really good entrepreneur, you have to be good in front of the camera, and a good way to do that is to take a drama class in university. Plus, if your computer science degree offers these kind of electives, then I would recommend taking it. And if you don't like that kind of stuff, then perhaps you're missing out on something. Personally, I think a lot of computer science degrees and computer engineering degrees can take cues from these liberal arts degrees to actually make it better. I'll talk about that in another video. After many years of working with programmers and seeing how a lot of programmers think, I do understand that there's a huge difference between someone who just took a computer science degree and someone that maybe went through 2 or 3 different degree choices and then ended up with a computer science degree. I would bet that the person with more than just the computer science degree will outperform some of the people that would just have a computer science degree. I think what the article is really trying to say is that if you want to have a good career in STEM, there's more than just going to a computer science degree and expecting a good job right out of the gate. If you want to continually succeed in your career, there are more things that you have to learn, and these things are most absent in STEM degrees. In fact, a lot of schools don't use STEM as their major focus, but they use STEAM instead, which stands for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. They do this because great works of art require lots of engineering as well. A Bach fugue is a masterpiece of engineering. So should you enroll in STEM courses or go get a liberal arts degree? The answer is fairly clear. You should probably get a STEM degree. However, there is way more that you need to know to become successful. If you want a really good career in STEM, there is much more that you need to learn outside of that degree. Alright, that concludes this video. Remember, this channel doesn't do a Patreon, so please buy the products down below. Remember that every single dollar that we get from the products that you buy below goes into making more content. Be sure to like and subscribe, and please share this video with the world. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in another video.